right, hello and welcome back everyone to our 22nd episode of the Extraordinaire Within You, hosted by the wonderful AJOG MFM journal here. As you guys know, we have lots of probably some new listeners here, and for our old listeners, the real mission and vision for creating this platform is really to create a platform for global mentorship where we invite incredible leaders who have shaped our MFM community to share their journey and their stories with us. And today we have a very special guest. It is a true privilege to welcome Dr. Dan O'Keefe, a physician whose leadership has had a lasting impact on the field of maternal fetal medicine. Dr. O'Keefe is an MFM specialist with more than 30 to 40 years of experience and is the former executive vice president of the Society for Maternal Fetal Medicine. He has been a pioneer in MFM practice management and founded the Association of MFM Management, helping physicians think beyond just clinical excellence, but to also understand the importance of leadership, quality, and building successful and sustainable practices. His influence on the next generation of MFM leaders continues today through the Dan O'Keefe SMFM Leadership Academy, which bears his name and reflects his long-standing commitment to developing leaders within our specialty. Dan, we are so honored to have you here with us today. Thank you for being here.
Well, I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. And we start all of our sessions with gratitude. So I'd love to invite you to share something you're grateful for, and then, we'll pass it on to Vince.
Well, I have two things. One, I'm grateful that you, Vincenzo, and Kavita invited me onto this program. It is really an honor to do this. And the second thing I'm grateful for, that today is my 55th wedding anniversary.
Wow.
Oh,
That's great.
happy anniversary.
That's wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you. I found a good one and kept with her.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
That's great.
Thank you, Dan. Vince, what about you? Anything you'd like to share for gratitude?
Yeah, today I'd like to do something different. A few days ago, our good friend and colleague Jay Iams passed away. I think he was 80 years old. There's been a lot of social media posts and stuff about him. I just want to remember him. He really changed my life. He was director of MFM at the Ohio State, and we had the same academic interests, cervical and cerclage. And I remember as a fellow coming off the podium for an oral SMFM, very young, and he coming up and saying, this is so important. You should publish it in AJOG. Helped me publish a lot of stuff we did. Obviously, then he did this New England Journal of Medicine thing. It was a class act. He really liked young investigators, changed my career. I think he had 5 kids, over 10 grandkids. Really a wonderful guy. Never wanted to have really too many accolades for him. It was just there to improve the lives of women and babies, like we do. And so I really owe him a lot, and I miss him. So I know, Dan, you knew him as well by being on the board at SMFM as well.
Yeah, Jay and I were very good friends. We worked on the board for a number of years, and he did so much for the society and so much for the MFMs in the society. He was a wonderful human being, and I certainly loved working with him, and I'm very sad to hear of his passing.
Yeah. No, thank you both for sharing that. And that definitely, we remember, a true giant in our field, with lots of fond memories today. Yeah. And, I'd like to share something I'm grateful for as well. Today's special session is extra special for me. And to that, I want to say I'm grateful for incredible mentors in my life, which are both of you. Dan and Vince, both of you have really shaped who I have become as an MFM physician and who I continue to aspire to be through your role modeling and through everything you've taught me about leadership, about being a good physician, about taking care of people. So thank you so much. You've really shaped my career in ways more than I could thank you for.
You're welcome.
Thank you. All right, without further ado, I'd love to jump in and hear all about you, Dan. So my first question, can you take us back all the way to your childhood and tell us how that shaped your career and who you are today?
Well, I can tell you at age 5, I got the book, Dan, the Doctor Man. I must have read it 100 times. And from that point on, the only thing I ever said when people ask, what are you going to do? Is I'm going to be a doctor.
Wow.
Now, shaping it, of course, my father was an obstetrician gynecologist. And we have a bit of a genetic defect in our family that I've asked geneticists to study, because both my brother and sister are OBGYNs also. So,
Wow.
so we've had a lot of women's health in our life. But beyond that, around me, there were at least 11 or 12 cousins that were also physicians. So when we got together as a family, it was doctor stuff. And that's all I ever knew, and that's all I ever wanted. I saw how respected my father was. I saw how much he enjoyed what he did, and I wanted a piece of that.
I love that. And so that's incredible. And so kind of how did your journey, so do you just kind of pursue that? What did that path look like for you, from, knowing that you wanted to be a doctor to executing it?
And securing it, well, that was an interesting path. I can tell you, I was in college at 1969. I graduated, which was the draft in the Vietnam War. And there was a massive influx of applicants to go to medical school, PhDs who didn't want to go to Vietnam and all. And I did not get into medical school in the United States. I spent 2 years trying, and I was told I was good, but good doesn't make it anymore. This is what a dean of admissions told me. Wow. So I went down to the University Autónoma de Guadalajara in Guadalajara, Mexico, to get my training, which was interesting because it was all in Spanish. And I'm a kid from upstate New York. I'd never met a Spanish person in my life. So I didn't know Spanish, and I had to learn it. And it was an interesting 4 years of living down there, because I learned that nothing cannot be done. There's always a way to get something done. And from there, I went to Dalhousie University in Halifax, Nova Scotia. They had a program up there where they took 2 people from Guadalajara each year. And I was lucky to get it, and had a absolutely wonderful experience up there, and was actually going to stay up there for my training until the province decided that they were not giving medical licenses out to anybody that graduated from foreign medical school. So I had to start looking, and this was, of course, after March, and all spots had been taken. So I called a friend in California, and he said, well, they have this thing out here called a GYN pathology year. If you come out and get that, then they'll get to know you. You can get in the OBGYN program out here. I said, well, I don't have any other choice. I applied. I went out and interviewed. They took me. And I showed up on day 1, and they said, well, you're not doing the GYN pathology anymore. In fact, you're not even going to be an intern anymore. You're a second-year resident.
Oh my God!
What had happened is Roger Freeman came down there as the head, and he was at Long Beach. He wanted a resident over there. They didn't have anybody to do it, so they plugged me into that spot. Now here I am showing up. I've had 2 months of OB in my internship, and they put me in a second-year resident slot.
Wow!
And I'll tell you who saved me and has become a lifelong friend and a lifelong mentor. And that's Tom Garidi. He was 1 year above me. He took me under his wings, and he spent the whole year teaching me, and it was wonderful. And we've been close ever since. And since that time, I went to Arizona, and I was the only maternal fetal doctor there. And anytime I had a difficult case or a problem, I called Tom Garidi up, because he was my mentor.
Wow.
That's an amazing story, Dan. Thanks for sharing that. That's amazing. I want you to, dig deeper onto your drive, both, your upbringing, I love the story of the 5-year-old reading then the Dr. Man, by the way. If anybody, maybe your dad, others, if you saw, I know you worked really hard all your career, if you saw those ethics, maybe the good Irish ethics as well. I know you're very proud of that background.
Yes.
And also the fact that it was difficult, to get in, how that shaped, the 40 years after getting in medical school, getting in residency, again, getting to be the leader of the SMFM or our society, the leader in so many other things. Can you
Yeah, I think it comes down to I had a desire and I needed to persevere. And if I had to go somewhere else to do it, then I would do that. If I had to do something else, I would do that. I would do whatever was necessary. Now, I'm not the smartest bulb in the group, but I'm one of the hardest workers in the group. So I had to work very, very hard just to keep up with people like you, Vincenzo, you know?
No, you're smarter than me. But
so it was perseverance, resilience, drive. I had this desire inside me to become a doctor. And when you say, what's one of your most important accomplishments? When I got my MD degree, it was incredible feeling of, I don't know, relief or just happiness that I finally reached my goal. And that was even before I got into a residency. It was just getting that degree was a big deal for me. So it's just not having people say no, busting through barriers, going around them, going above them, going on the side of them, whatever it took for me to get there is what I did.
And knowing you as I know you, I think that some of that obviously stayed with you, the rest of your life.
Oh, absolutely stayed with me.
And maybe again, you want to emphasize that message, to others that, to get to where you are, and even to get to this, Extraordinaires, series MFM. It's required a lot of work, all along, every day, every year.
Yeah, absolutely correct. It's just, it's just a lot of work. You can't give up. You can't give in. You got to persevere. You have your bad days. You have your down days. Yeah, you let them go along. It's like someone says, Kavita, what did you worry about yesterday? You don't remember. So why worry about it? If you don't remember what you worried about yesterday, why were you worrying about it yesterday? Right. So stop worrying about what yesterday was. Look at the present and look at the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
No, I love that, Dan. And I think that's, a big takeaway is like your perseverance allowed you to prove to yourself what you're capable of accomplishing.
That is correct.
And that's the key point. And I want to, and then you said you moved out here to Phoenix as the only MFM. Tell us about that, because that too takes a certain level of courage. And it's such a challenge to say, I'm going to move out there in the middle of nowhere and be the only MFM. What inspired that decision? What was that experience like? How did you build it up to what it became was one of the largest and most successful MFM practices in the state?
Well, thank you. I was finishing first, Roger Freeman was probably the first MFM to go outside of academia or the university into private practice. And that's where I did my fellowship. And I really liked the idea of private practice. I'm not a researcher. I'm not an academician. I'm not someone to be in a department and told what to do. I like to be on my own. I like to make my decisions. I'm a bit entrepreneurial. And I was actually ready to go to San Diego at Sharp until my chairman, Phil Desai, came back from a talk in Phoenix. He says, you are not to sign any contract until you go to Phoenix and talk to them. So I went over there, and Phoenix in 1980 was a beautiful city. Still is, but
it still is, yeah.
Not as crowded as it was. And there was no maternal fetal medicine in the entire state. None. And this was a private practice because in Phoenix, was not the university. The university was in Tucson. Mm-hmm. So I said, private practice is what I want to do. I want to set up a system of maternal fetal medicine that's statewide. They had a great transport system already set up. So I said, this is a great opportunity to do what my dreams are, was to be in charge of developing a program, not only for the city of Phoenix, but for the entire state of Arizona. And that really was a challenge for me. And I like challenges. So I said, I'm going to take this. And the rest is history. It was not easy to start with, because when you walk into a place where there's no maternal fetal medicine, you're the only one there, everybody who was there, it was cowboy obstetrics when I went there. Anything went, you could do anything you want. There was no regulations. There was no protocols. There was no nothing. And they did not like when I came in and said, you can't do it that way. There's a better way of doing it. So I had to struggle through that. but I had support from some of the private people because they were all private. There was no universities, and you have to, in order to survive, you have to get transports from them and consults from them. So you had to work with them very closely, and that's one of my strengths. I was able to do that.
Vince, sorry, I don't think we can hear you.
Can't hear you, Vince.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the mic is lagging, but usually it will catch back up in a bit if he just keeps talking for a little bit.
All right.
Oh.
Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you
now. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Sorry about this. So can you expand on that strength thing you just went over? I know you love to talk about strength and weaknesses, and the fact that your whole career was shaped on the fact that you knew your strength. And
that is correct.
You're the perfect thing. We always talk about academic versus private practice in MFM. Lots of people, debate what to do. Can you be the champion for the private practice? How well it is? You're an academician anyway. You led SMFM. In fact, I think your career did great because you were a private MFM. It was your strength. You used it as a strength. And so can you make people aware of that?
First thing is, it's important to know your strengths, because if you're in your strength zone and you're working in a strength zone, then you don't get tired, you don't get bored, and you don't get burnt out, because you're happy going to work, happy with what you're doing, love what you're doing, and the next day you get up and you want to do it again. So if you know your strengths and you're working in them, you don't get burnt out. That's number one. Number two is if you know your strengths, and you don't have to take any tests to know it. All you got to do is say, what do I like doing? What brings me pleasure? What do I get up in the morning and look forward to doing? That's your strength. So play to your strength, and once you know that and you play to it, you can get incredible things done. Now, of course, when I went there, I wasn't a businessman. Of course, you don't get any business. You don't get any idea of leadership because you're never taught that in any training that we ever get. So I had to learn that on my own, and I went and took courses, and people always say, how did you get good judgment? And I said, from bad judgment. I made a lot of mistakes and I learned from them. But if you fail quick and learn quick, you can move forward. And so that's what I tried to do. And it was a very interesting time. We built it up to the largest maternal transport service in the world.
Yeah.
We were the first ones to have labor and delivery nurses go out and pick up the patients. Usually it was the trauma team that did it, but we did so many transports a year because it's such a rural state that we had our own maternal transport nurses would go out and pick it up. And, my partner, John Elliott, had written up a number of papers that he's done. He says, we used to transport people 7, 8, 9 centimeters. We never had a delivery on the airplane, on the helicopter. Never happened, because the nurses went out there, they evaluated it, we talked, and then we made a decision of go or no go. So it was, I can tell you, it was challenging because I get there and 95% of the transports were neonatal. And of course, we know that maternal transports are better than neonatal transport. The outcome is better. So I had to somehow switch that around. So literally, I went to 22 different hospitals my first year, all over rural Arizona, to explain who I was, what I did, about the transport system, and when to transport patients to me. Within 18 months, I had turned it around, so 95% of the transports were maternal and 5% were neonatal. And the outcomes just got better and better when we did that. So these are the things you have to do when you're starting something new. Now, you say the private practice. You're right. I was not set up to be in the university or research, but I was set up to be clinical. And clinical. When I went out in clinical, I got badmouthed a lot by the university people saying, I betrayed the profession because I went out and practicing out in the community. There's a few of us that had to the Eric Knox, Peter Watson. We had some time doing that, but in the end, it came down to the society, as you know. Every board member, every executive position was university. But yet at that time, 50% of all MFMs were in private practice after about 6 or 10 years. And we had no representation whatsoever. Mm-hmm. So we literally, as a group, we would meet each SMFM and decide what to do. Finally, we were going to step away from SMFM and start our own private practice society. The board heard about it and they came to us and said, what can we do? And we said, you have to put a private practice person on the board every year. And they agreed to that. And it's been that way ever since. Sometimes 2 or 3 are on the board now. And it gave a better representation of what the society ought to be for its members, because its members were 50% not in universities. So I thought that was a very good thing we did for the private practice, and to move it forward and get some respectability.
And for the society. Well done.
Yeah, no, 100%. No, that's really great, Dan. I love that. And I think, just to deepen that a little bit more with your wisdom, when, especially because I think, as I shared with you my most recent publication about academic practice versus private practice, because, I think...
And let me stop you there. Everybody should read that. So whoever listens to this, read Kavita's new thing on private versus university. It's a fabulous article.
No, thank you, Dan. That's very kind. I appreciate that. But that to the point, like it is 2026, but yet I feel like for graduating residents and fellows, that is still one of their biggest dilemma is like, I hear my mentees come to me all the time. I can't decide if I want to go to private practice versus academic, as if it's these two binary things where one's better than the other, when it is not at all, right? And I just wanted to maybe have you share your thoughts and wisdoms. Like, how would you answer that question to a mentee or to anyone that comes to you? That question?
First, you want to be in private practice. If you're a university bent, you want to do research, stay there.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you can't do research in a clinical practice. Our clinical practice put probably out more papers than half the university does every single year.
Yeah.
Because we had people that were interested in research. We gave them time to do research. And we actually funded from our practice to help them fund research programs, all clinical research, but that's what it was. And we had a lot of people put out a lot of good papers. So you can still do research. You can still do teaching. I love to teach. Most of the people that came to our practice love to teach. There was a residency program, then moved into a fellowship program, but teaching was important to me. So that, you can teach, you can do clinical research, and you can still do a private practice where you're taking care of patients. And it's a very, very rewarding practice, a very rewarding life. So people should not discount it. It's just very rewarding, I must say.
I love that. No, thank you for sharing that. Vince, go ahead.
Yeah, Dan, if you can expand some on relationships. You mentioned a few names already. Mm-hmm. You mentioned John Elliott, you mentioned Frieden, and you mentioned Tom Garidi, who we all love, really an amazing leader, AJOG, SMFM, etc. And, Mike Foley and you have been, best friends and buddy for a long, long time. He's been here and did this session with us as well. What kind of words of wisdom do you have for young people in terms of how, professional relationship, which also can become personal relationship, shape your well-being, your career, your future, opportunities, all of that?
Well, the first thing I got to say is you can't do it alone. You have to have people helping you to get to where you want to go. And the idea is if you help them get to where they want to go, they will help you get to where you want to go.
Exactly.
So that's a key. The second thing is the reward you get for helping people is huge. To me, I call it psychic income. I mean, you've both been to the leadership course. We don't get paid to do the leadership course, but I get this incredible amount of psychic income, this well-being, this feeling of good, this feeling of gratitude, this thank you that people do. And then I watch them go out and do incredible things with this leadership. And it makes me feel so good. It's, for me now, it's better than money, you know?
Yeah.
So the key is develop friendships, develop relationships, because you can't go anywhere without them. Compromise, you know, come together, work together, help each other out, get to where you want to go. That's the key to your success in life, and certainly in your career, is working with people. And, you know, I had great mentors. Ted Quilligan was another mentor of mine, and I became a good friend. We go golfing in Ireland together. Tom would put this together, and we got to be great friends. And, you know, having such mentors, not only in medicine, but in life, when you go out and you play golf with them, and then you go have dinner with them, and you sit around a fireplace and shoot the bull. It's just incredible how much you learn from somebody that's been through it. And can use that information without having to go have bad judgment, so you can make good judgment. You learn from other people's mistakes. So I absolute relationships are the sine qua non of a successful career in life.
Wow. I love that. Thank you so much. And, you know, I want to touch on, you talked about the Dan O'Keefe SMFM Leadership Academy. You know, this is such a legacy that you've built, and, you know, will continue to, you know, exist for a very long time. And, you know, the ripple effect from that has been phenomenal.
Yes,
I'd love to hear, could you share with us how that idea came about, how you decided to do that, and how you actually made it happen, and kind of, you know, the whole vision and story behind this?
Oh, I'd love to share it. Yeah. I was working with the society as the executive VP, and you know, you go to the board, you go to meetings. MFM is where the buck stops. No, you know, you can't go any higher than we are. And people are always wanting somebody like an MFM on their committee, you know, to run the OB committee, to any committee that you can think of. They want them to put them in leadership roles. The problem I saw is the terrible leadership that was out there. There was no training in leadership. People learned by what their professors did, and what their professors did is long gone as far as the way leadership should be done. And they didn't have any idea. And they get in there and they would just flail and sometimes fail. And I said, we've got to do something to help these people become leaders. So I went to Mike Foley, who was the chief medical officer at Scottsdale at that time. And I said, Mike, I got this idea. He says, what do you think? He goes, fantastic idea. I said, do you want to help me put it together? He says, absolutely. I said, problem is we don't know anything about content and stuff for this. How the hell are we going to do that? And he says, I got the person. He was working with Ida Lynn Carr at that time at Scottsdale Memorial, doing a program of leadership for the department heads there. He says, this lady is fantastic. He says, next time she's down, we'll go and have dinner and you can talk to her. I talked to her, and within 20 minutes, I said, we have just found the Holy Grail. I mean, she was incredible. You could just see that right away. And she's basically, you know, she does all the content. She just puts everything together. As you know, you've been there. You've seen how fantastic she is. And we started it off, and it has been probably one of the best things. Well, there you go. Lead Your Best Life Now. We just finished a book. Vincenzo is one of the authors, but I must say, Ida Lynn.
You're the wind, and Ida.
Ida Lynn did it. Let's give credit where credit is due. Ida Lynn.
It's all her.
Yeah. It's all
amazing book. Everyone should go ahead and get it. It's available on Amazon.
Yes.
And everybody should go to the, you know, Dan O'Keefe leadership course. It's really, you know, changed my life. You know, I took it the second year was available, but lucky enough, you know, to help Dan and Mike and Adeline. It's really wonderful. But I'm glad, Kavita, you brought it up. Is the idea, you know, it's something that didn't exist. You know, maybe it was a pie in the sky, and now it's a reality. How many years, Dan? 15,
almost 15 years now.
Yeah.
And we've done over 500 people. And literally, when I see these people or talk to them, or I see where they are, they've done incredible things with leadership, both on a local level, a regional level, and a national level. It's just, it warms my heart whenever I see something like that happen. Know that they're using the skills and the tools that they learned at the leadership course. That's my psychic income right there.
I love it. It's an incredible legacy to leave, for sure. No, we are so grateful. As a student of the course and myself, I'm just so grateful that that thing exists because of you. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
And then, Dan, you talked about, your journey in medicine and career. It's not always straightforward. There are challenges. There are moments you need to persevere. Can you share with us any significant challenge, perhaps more the mindset that you have when you face challenges, how you navigate those things?
Yeah, well, of course, we talked about my not getting into medical school,
Mm-hmm.
big obstacle going to Mexico, and then trying to get back into the United States. The AMA was being real difficult at that time. The way it was in Mexico, you had to do 4 years, and then you had to do 2 years in a rural community before you got your degree. So the AMA says you couldn't come back until you finish those 2 years. Well, they weren't going to help us. So literally, a group of us called NASA, North American Student Association, sued the AMA. Yeah, I was a material witness on that one, and they actually gave in and started these externships, what were called fifth pathways in the United States, that allowed people to come back, do an extra year of clinical work, and then go on and pass their ECFMGs, and then go on to get their residency programs.
Wow!
So it was it's just one thing after another. You just have to. You got a problem. How are you going to solve it? How are you going to go around it, over it, through it? It's just a matter of doing that, and
upstream.
Stop worrying and be very positive about it. Because if you're negative, you're not going to get anything done.
Yeah.
Opportunity doesn't come by if you're negative.
You went upstream. You just made can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, you went upstream.
Yeah,
you
like
went
that.
to the problem.
I like
It's
that
called-
problem.
you went-
Yes, the problem was the American Medical Association, and we sued them.
Can you explain what upstream? People are not going to know
Mhm.
what we're talking about here.
Yeah, upstream means most of the day. For instance, in medicine, most of the time we're treating illnesses after they occur. Okay, that's downstream. What you want to do is get upstream and prevent the disease so that you don't have to treat it downstream. And almost every problem that we talk about is a downstream problem that if we would go upstream, we could solve the damn problem. So to me, everything is you got to go upstream, solve the problem so you don't have to be dealing with it downstream.
Wow. No, I love that. And that's a big concept we learned at the Dan O'Keefe Leadership Academy. Vince, go ahead. You were about to say something.
Yeah, I want to go back a little bit to your SMFM career, because, being executive vice president, basically being the CEO of the society, you were running the society administratively and also all the committees and administration. And you were talking about before the relationships and, Mike Foley. Can you, I was then a young person, maybe just, being in committees, and I forgot who was first, if it was Mike, I think it was you probably first and then Mike, but their relationship to me seemed beautiful because you have very different strengths. You obviously got along to each other, and it seemed to me like, sometimes maybe you helped him, sometimes he helped you, and there's nothing wrong. You were talking about the first and greatest CEO. We're talking about one of the best presidents ever. Can you talk about that, how you or him got in first as MFM and how your career evolved in the society?
Let me tell you how we met. It's a very interesting story. He was at Ohio State with Steve Gabby, and Steve Gabby wanted him badly to stay there, and he didn't want to. He wanted to go into a private practice, and so Steve says, "Well, I know a good private practice." He calls up myself and John Elliott and says, "I got this tremendous guy that doesn't want to stay at the university. He wants to go into private practice. You ought to look at him. So I literally got on the phone and called his phone. I found out where he was, and he was in Aspen, attending the Aspen meeting up there in the forum. And I called the place where it was, and I said, could you please get Mike Foley? They went into the forum during the lecture, got him, pulled him out, got him on the phone. And I said, Mike Foley, Steve Gabby says, I'd like to have you come down and interview. He came down. We didn't need anybody. We were full up. We interviewed the guy, and John Elliott and I said, I'll take a pay cut to get this guy. And we talked to our partners. We all took a pay cut to get Mike Foley on board. And it was the best damn thing we ever did, because this guy is just unbelievable in what he can get done. Unbelievable in what he can get done. You know, he was a medical director of the practice. He became CMO. I mean, the guy's done everything, and he's done everything well. And our relationship, we are very, very close friends. He is sort of my consigliere. We talk. We got problems. We can get it cleared up so quickly. We work with help with him set up the critical care course. We help sponsor that. And so we've done tremendous things together. The important thing, though, with a society is I was on the board before he was an executive vice president. And then he became president. And the one thing he did that had never been done, that jettisoned the society, was he said, we're going to have a strategic planning session. The society had never done one. They didn't know where they were going or what they were doing. So we had the strategic planning session that Mike and I helped set up. We brought on a facilitator, and we did it for 2 days. It is the turning point of where the society turned from a mom and pop organization to a real professional organization.
Wow. That
was the turning point. And Mike Foley orchestrated that, and we pulled it off. Actually, we worked together to do it, but Mike was president, so, he's got all the credit.
For people listening, the committees ideas, came around, all the committees. Then now there are 15, 20 committees, and they drive so many, innovations and stuff. A lot of those stuff, came from those, retreats and Mike and you. So thanks, Dan, again.
Yeah. I got another interesting story is when I first came on the board as a private practitioner, I came to the first meeting. No one except one person introduced themselves to me and said hello.
Oh, wow.
I was a piranha. Then I said, what are we doing? I was there a year to feeling it out, getting to know people, building relationships so that they'd even talk to me. And finally I said, what are we doing here? I said, we got all these things that need to get accomplished. Like, who knows who we are? Maternal fetal medicine, we're perinatologists. They think we're neonatologists. Our reputation out there, you go out and ask anybody who a maternal fetal doctor is or a perinatologist, they say, oh, you're a neonatologist. I said, we have no reputation. So we've got to build that. We got to do GR. I said, we have specific procedures we do in maternal fetal medicine that we're getting paid for as OBGYNs. I said, we got to develop codes that say what we do so that we can get paid appropriately for what we do. So we started the coding committee. Then they started the publications committee, where we said, we should be the ones telling people how to do high-risk pregnancies. We should be the ones to set the expectation down on how to take care of high-risk pregnancies. They started the publications committee. All these things have been just incredibly good things for the society, and they just jettisoned as soon as Mike came in and we did that strategic plan. We more than doubled the number of committees, and things got done at such a rapid pace. It was wonderful to watch.
Wow. So such incredible work. Thank you to all of you, to both you, Dan and Vince, as well as Mike Foley, and everyone who worked so hard to make it what it is today. Another thing I want to touch on, Dan, that I from the conference you talk a lot about is also culture, workplace culture. And, to be a successful leader, you have basically definitely laid down the foundation of an amazing workplace culture to be able to build what you have. Can you tell us a little bit more about what work culture is and how you have created such an amazing culture where in all the places you've worked?
Yeah. Well, the first is you got to make the physicians happy. Otherwise, nothing works. So how do you make them happy? Number one, you take money off the table. You give them an adequate salary and bonus. 2, you have a good benefit package. 3, you have a good package for time off. I can tell you, we had 12 weeks a year off, everybody.
Ooh,
12 weeks a year. So everybody had enough time. So you get the benefits, you get the salary off of the way, you get the time off of the way, and then what you do is you give them a purpose. What are you interested in? We had people interested in critical care, Mike Foley. We had interest in fetal surgery, Bill Kluel and Garrett Lamb. We had people interested in multiple gestations, John Elliott. And you say, those are your strengths. Go develop them. So you give them purpose. You give them mastery. Their mastery in whatever they want to do. Now, they have to do the general stuff. You know, it is work. You know, we have to do the normal stuff. But we give them time, and we give them everything they need to become a master in the field that they're interested in. And then we give them autonomy. We say, this is the end point I want to get to. We're down here. You choose the way to get there. If you have any problems, come to me, and we'll work through we'll get rid of the problems. We'll go around them, over them, under them. We'll get rid of the problems so that you can get to where you want to go. And I'm not going to tell you how to get there because this is your area of expertise. Then what you have to do is set up a code of conduct of how you're going to work with each other. Mm. So you know what's coming, you know how to interact. I mean, we had physician board meetings every month for 35 years. Not once in 35 years did we ever have a yelling match in that meeting. Not once. Because we had a culture. We had a code of conduct. Honesty without repercussions. Deliver the mail to the right people. You got a problem, bring a solution. You know, all these things are important to set down so that and everybody agrees to them. And when somebody is not following them, you just say, you're not following it. And they'll get back in line. And that's going upstream because people say meetings are terrible. They're always arguing. People are jumping over each other. You know, well, if you go upstream and set this code of conduct, you have none of that. It all goes away and you can be productive in your meetings. So this is how you build a culture. You then listen to the people. You listen to them and you listen to what they have to say and you try to implement what they want. So listening, code of conduct, setting people so that they get rid of the worries in life, salary, benefits, and time off, and you just give them a purpose, autonomy, and mastery. And that's how you motivate people, and that's how you build a culture.
Beautiful, Dan. Beautiful, beautiful. I think we have a lot of people listening, and I think I know who this user is. Thank you for your kind words. Nothing would have been accomplished without the tenacity of Dan O'Keefe. And you can see the picture. I think that's our own Mike Foley listening in. And thanking you, Dan. I want to talk, before we get to the end of the hour, about family as well. Mm-hmm. And I know you have 3 daughters. Congratulations today again, 55th anniversary for the ones who weren't on in the first 5 minutes. Wedding anniversary today for you. Do you want to talk about? We bring this up all the time. People. I know Mike, for example, doesn't like balance, but likes harmony and different words, whatever you want to call it. But how do you master the professional versus family issues?
Well, there's 2 things the way I did it. Number one, we had a strategic plan for our practice. Every year we would go over, we would meet every year, everybody would get together and meet, and we knew where we were going, how we were going to get there, and when we were going to get there every single year. This is how you get things done. If you don't know where you're going, I mean, if I gave you a car in San Diego and I said you get to Portland, Maine, and I said you can't use any map, any GPS or anything, how the hell are you going to get there if you don't have a plan? Well, the same thing goes for your life. If you don't have a plan for your life, how are you going to be fulfilled? How are you going to not burn out? How are you going to fulfill all compliments there are, whether it's family, whether it's personal, whether it's business, whether it's financial, whether it's spiritual. All those things have to be looked at. Every single year I did this with a professional. And I can tell you, it was amazing. I would write it down every year. We would meet. We would go over it. We would go over what we didn't accomplish the year. Most of it we could throw away, and I'd put it away. And then a year later, I'd come back and look at it, and I've accomplished 90% of it without ever looking at it again, because it's the act of writing it down. And that's how you get to know where you're going, and you get harmony in your life when you know you've balanced all those things out. And family to me is extremely important. In fact, to me, we meet once a month. All my family's in Phoenix, Arizona, so I'm lucky, and my grandkids and son-in-law. So we meet once a month for dinner at somebody's house. We go on ski vacations. We go on fishing vacations. We go on hunting vacations. We go on summer vacations, all together. Of course, Dad's paying, so they're very happy about that. You know where that is, Vince, huh?
Sounds good.
But we all get along, and we all help each other out. And when someone's having trouble, we're all right there to help them out. Family is extremely important, and it has always been in our family. Whether it's my brother, my sister, family is always very important. I guess it's the Irish side, but so we do a lot of family stuff together, and we're constantly in contact. My wife probably talks to my daughters every single day. She's it's a great relationship that we have.
How many grandkids now?
I have 2 grandkids.
That's great. That's great. Congrats. And they're nearby, right? Within half an hour, 45 minutes? Or?
45 minutes. Yep.
Yeah.
We go to their football games, their hockey games. Yeah. We do it all.
That's beautiful. I love that. No, it's true. And when you're happy at home, you show up to work with your cup filled, your heart is full, you have more to give to the workplace too. It's a cycle that feeds each other beautifully.
That's absolutely true. Yep.
Yeah. And apart from family, what about for yourself? What are things that you enjoy doing for you, Dan?
Oh gosh. I don't have any hobbies, like gardening or anything. What my hobbies are sports. I've always done sports. Almost any sport you can think of, whether it's hang gliding or paragliding or jumping out of airplanes, to extreme skiing, water skiing, golf, pickleball, you name it, I've probably done it. And the ones I do the most were pickleball, golf, hunting, fishing, walking, bicycling. That's what I do the most now. But it's always been, windsurfing. I got into windsurfing. I'll try anything.
I love that. So lots of physical sports. That's amazing.
Yeah, a lot of physical sports. I've had to stay in shape to do all those physical sports, but it's good for your health anyway to stay in shape.
Well, that's excellent. And you strike me as someone that, of course, really values personal growth and development to, like continuing to be better and, learning. And so what is something a practice you have or something you do daily to continue to improving who you are every day? And that's something that maybe some of us can take as advice or, some tools to replicate.
Okay. Well, I do read a lot. I read a lot of obviously leadership books and all, but I like all types of books, mystery, spy books, and I like, books like Nexus and Abundance and stuff like that. One of my strengths is a learner. I like to learn. I like to find out new things, and I like to do new things. There was a while that every year my wife and I had this pact that we learn something new every year.
I love that.
And so we pick our thing and then we start doing it. And sometimes at the end of the year, we say, wasn't that great? And other times we say, that's great. And we kept doing it the rest of our lives. But we try to learn something new every year, whether it's a sport or whether it's a hobby or whether it's doing something else. It's just been a fun challenge for us.
That's amazing. I love that. Go ahead, Vince. I know we'll hear you in a second, but we can't hear you yet. But yes. Nothing yet. Mhm.
Hopefully you can hear me.
Okay,
too.
now I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. One question we haven't asked them, but I think it'll be a good one to answer. You seem to be very happy now as well. As you were, 20, 30 years ago when you were at SMFM and in private practice and very busy professionally. The transition, to that. Again, we have a lot of young people listening, but we also have people, later in career. And to tell the truth, even myself, I'm scared eventually, I get so much from work, so much professional, feedback and recognition. I'm looking forward, eventually to have more time for kids and eventually grandkids and family and hobbies and stuff. How did that go for you? Like being such a huge national leader, local leader, practice leader. Was it easy? Did it have difficulties? Any tips you can give people on how to be successful?
Yeah, it's never easy to stay in harmony. It's never easy, but you got to work at it and you got to plan it. And if you don't plan it, it doesn't get done. So the key is, every day, for instance, if you like to run and you get up in the morning and say, I don't really want to run. Well, I'll tell you what you do. Put your running shoes right next to your bed. So when you get up in the morning, you put your shoes on immediately and get out and run. Otherwise, if you put them in the closet, you'll walk past and not want to do it. So you've got to set up little trip points, little trigger points to get you to do things, because you can get overwhelmed with what you want to do at work. I mean, it's never ending what people are going to want you to do at work, and taking care of patients and stuff, and sitting on committees and doing all sorts of extra work that is not on your job description. So you got to have boundaries, number one. And it's important to say, when you say no to somebody, you got to tell them why. I said, I'm full up. I can't do anymore. If you want me to do that, what can you take away from me so that I can do that? But up until this point, I can't do it. If I get to a point where I can, I'll come to tell you I can. But, you got to have boundaries, because you're going to burn out. And let me tell you, I've been through burnout. It's ugly. You do not want to go through it. So prevent it. Go upstream, prevent burnout. You do that by having a strategic plan for your life and working to your strengths. That's how you prevent burnout. All this resilience and mindful stuff that is shown not to work. It's downstream. You're already in burnout. Now they want you to get it out of it, but they're not doing anything to keep you from going back into it. You got to go upstream. And do that, you got to have a strategic plan for your life, and you just have to follow it. You have to follow it and play to your strengths.
So my question was also, when you retired from, private practice and eventually from SMFM, how was that transition for you? I guess you planned it. And
actually, I did it pretty well, because I planned it. I set up a plan of how I was going to do that. A couple of years before I started doing things, I started getting ideas, starting a book club with some friends. So you keep intellectually out there. I sit on a board, a startup in obstetrics. So that keeps me intellectually out there. I do the leadership course. That keeps me intellectually up there. How do I get my psychic income? I do random acts of kindness. This is my favorite thing to do. For instance, I'll go on an airplane and I'll sit there, and this lady comes in, the older lady comes in with this giant bag that she's got to lift up. I get up and lift it up for her. And then at the end, I take it down for her. She looks at me and says, "My God, nobody's ever done that for me before. Thank you." There's your psychic income right there. There's your feeling good for the next 6 weeks. When I do something good for somebody, I get more out of it than they get out of it. So, I just continually try to do every act of random kindness that I can, because it brings me great psychic income and makes me feel good.
No, I love that. And when you think about, I want to just, we're kind of coming towards the end. So just want to bring it back to in the beginning, when you said you wanted to be a doctor, and you mentioned that your dad was, an amazing OBGYN, and you wanted to be like him. Now, when you reflect back, on your journey as an OBGYN, as an MFM, and think about the kind of doctor that you are, that you wanted to be like your dad, how does that picture kind of look like for you?
It looks complete, very complete. It's like I've accomplished exactly what I wanted to do from age 5 till the time I retired. It looks very complete, and I'm lucky. My father lived to 98, and he actually lived to come to when I retired from the society. He actually came to the thing, yeah, as my whole family did. We had like 170 years of women's health care sitting there.
Wow.
Wow, that's incredible.
And my 2 daughters were labor and delivery, high risk labor and delivery nurses, and my 3rd daughter is a doctor of physical therapy doing pelvic pain stuff. So it's in the blood.
Have you guys ever thought about building your own hospital or something? Like, you have the whole team there.
That's great.
What a full circle moment, Dan. We're kind of coming towards the last few moments here. One question I also like to ask is, if you had to describe yourself in one word, what would that be?
Well, I've never had to do that.
Well, yay, first for
Okay, I got one. Positive.
I love that.
And let me explain what I mean by positive. Positive optimism, thinking forward. Because if you're positive, opportunities come by you and you see them and you're able to jump on them, which I've been able to do all my life because I've been positive. If you're negative, those opportunities come by, you don't see them, and they pass you away. And people are going, how come you get all the opportunities and I don't? I said, because you're negative and I'm positive. Okay. Second thing is, nobody likes a negative leader. You want to be positive if you're going to be a leader. And it gives you opportunities that you don't get, and you get things done. I mean, we look at the happiness advantage. When I talk about happiness, and I'm not talking about giddy, laughing happiness. I'm talking about thriving in your life, thriving in relationships, thriving in work, thriving with your marriage. This is happiness. That's what happiness is thriving. And if you're positive and you're happy, life is going to be so much better than if you're negative. I can tell you. I know negative people. I don't have negative people around me anymore. They drag me down, and I don't have time for that.
I love that. And I know you've shared this at the conference too, like the information you input into your life, like the news, you don't really watch any, the news and stuff. Like those are little things that you continue to fill your cup with that positivity, which is so important. Can you tell us a little bit about
I don't watch any news at all. I haven't watched it in 15 or 20 years because it's all negative. It drags you down. Give you an example. This is a research paper. If you, Vince, looks at 3 minutes of news in the morning before you go to work, and I don't, at the end of the day, I'm 29% more positive than you are. Just 3 minutes of negative news. This is how it kills you.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's just internet, everything. It's just negative. And I can't live that way.
No, for sure.
Thanks, Dan, for being on. It has been a great session. You see a lot of people are complimenting you. I want to remember one episode, last thing I'll say, you've done a lot for a lot of people. You've been a great example. And, one personal thing, I was just watching you talk now, and maybe, 5 SMFM or 6 SMFMs ago, I asked you about how the leadership course was going. We hugged, actually, and you said, you know what, that's it. You have to be faculty. That's, you have to be part of the faculty at SMFM Leadership Capacity. I'm making you turned around. You were looking for Mike or Idlin or whatever. I will never, there's the book called Moments, Moments That Change Your Life. You remember, you should go from moment to moment. I will never forget that moment. I will forever be thankful for making me part of that. And congrats on everything you've done. And again, personal thanks.
Well, this has just been so much fun chatting with you, and I really appreciate you bringing a private practice person on board to talk. I'm not that extraordinary, but I just love chatting.
You're very extraordinary. You're very extraordinary. The whole hour was extraordinary. Kavita, wrap it up.
No, I just have so much gratitude for both of you, and everything you've both done. And Dan, for all the wonderful wisdom you shared in this hour. I will never forget, everyone that's taught me the leadership courses, but the thing that always sticks with me is you can lead from anywhere. And that, Dan, the first time I heard you say that, it really changed my life. because you always feel like unless you have a title, can I even lead? Can I do things? But that was the one thing that really changed it for me and has inspired me in a whole different direction in my career. And I know that everyone's that listened to this episode or has had any contact with you has been touched in just incredible ways. Thank you for leading by example and being the best possible leader we could have ever had. So thank you so much. So
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you both for having me. I much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you.